Hello, William here, welcome back. This week something a little unusual. Segmented pieces are not something I would normally do, but quite recently I was gifted something that somebody found in their garage. Now that something was this piece of wood, which is in fact something someone had prepared a long time ago, and I mean a long time ago, since this has been sat in my friend's garage for at least 35 years. I'm not sure why it was done. It wasn't this shape when I got it. I've cut it into a circle. It was a large number of what appears to be mainly oak pieces that have been glued together. In size it's 15 inches by, looks about 6 or 7 inches, and I did weigh it on the scales earlier, and it weighs in at a hefty 31 pounds. Now, mounting a piece of wood on my lathe of this size, not too daunting, to be honest. However, what does concern me slightly is the bonding process that was used, because actually I don't recognise the glue here. It's certainly not modern, it's not an epoxy resi or anything, and it smells a little bit like dead animals. So the big risk with this, as far as I can see at the moment, is the risk of it falling apart, or the risk of the pieces coming apart on the lathe. Obviously the piece itself lends itself very well to a very large bowl, an ornamental bowl, which I'll be quite happy with. Aesthetically, I don't know, because I don't particularly like segmented pieces, but if it's not pleasing to the eye, I can always attack it with some reactive paints, for instance, to bling it up a bit. So I can mount it on a large faceplate, of course, to get started, but there's a number of precautions I'm going to have to take, considering the fact the quality of the bonding is not known. To start off with, at least, I'm going to mount this piece of timber on a 6-inch faceplate. So to start off with, I need to use my giant centre finder to find the geometrical centre. There are in fact 10 screw holes in my 6-inch faceplate, and I'm going to use all of them with some substantial screws to hold this piece firmly on the lathe. Okay, this fits onto the lathe quite nicely with about 1 inch clearance over the bed. Now, for extra security, I can tighten the 2 grub screws on the faceplate. Also, I can bring up the tailstock and keep that in place as long as possible. Okay, it looks like the piece is going to be stable around about 430–440 RPM. Hopefully be able to increase the speed as the mass reduces over the development of the project. Now I'm beginning to hear a strange knocking noise which is slightly alarming. On closer examination I discovered a metal artifact in the piece which looks like it could possibly be a nail. I've decided to deal with this nail when I get further into the removal of material inside the bowl. But also I noticed that there are a lot of gaps between the wooden segments that will need to be filled with sawdust and CA glue as and when I come across them. Now, for the sake of security, I've decided to make a recess in the base of the bowl and insert a 100mm faceplate to reverse it on the lathe. Now, to ensure I get the best alignment possible on the faceplate, I'm going to mount it on a chuck reversing adapter. Now, a little further on into the project, as you can see, I've encountered a large number of these nails. Now, being a smart guy, I'm beginning to believe that this piece was never assembled with the intention of turning it on a lathe. So I'm resorting to a number of techniques, including drilling out the nails, chiseling them out, and also using various cutters on the props on and my Dremel. Also, I'm going to switch to carbide tools to finish the excavation of this bowl. Okay, apart from the challenge of getting all the metal artifacts out and repairing the cracks and the holes and everything, this particular piece is turning out to be one very ugly bowl. So I'm going to need to bling it up a little bit, and to do that I think I'm going to start off by putting some base colour on the outside, and I'm thinking about intrinsic colours, earth and honey. Yes, honey. Okay, I'm applying the colour here with a piece of sponge, and the wood, whatever it is, I'm still not sure, apart from the Babinga centre section, is soaking it up quite well. Okay, so I'm going to leave this to dry overnight, and the plan is tomorrow to colour over the top with the intrinsic honey colour and see what that looks like. Okay, I'm just applying some sanding sealer over the top of the colour now, and I would have to say that I'm not particularly enthralled by the result. Now, I'm still not exactly sure what some of the woods in this segmented piece are, but whatever they are, they're not very attractive. So, in considering how I can improve the appearance of this particular challenging piece, I came up with the idea of using some copper and gold leaf. So, having applied some random patches of size, I initially applied some copper leaf. So here I'm just testing out a few techniques, in this case using a wire brush to remove the excess leaf and to create an aged effect. So now moving on to putting the size on for the gold leaf, which will fill in most of the gaps. Okay, I'm quite pleased with the finish I've achieved here. I've left in some cracks, some bad joins in the original segmented blocks, and overall it's got that aged look. Now, to give this piece a positive link to the 100th anniversary of the Armistice, I decided to add a poppy to the outside. Now I'm going to put the poppy on the same way, i.e. using metal foils, and I've made a template from 2 prints of a poppy that I found on the internet. One template for the green, the other for the red. Now I've toned down the poppy, it was a bit too blingy, with some shellac, and I'm now just going to finish the piece off with some melamine lacquer just to seal in the metal foil. Okay then, so the finished article. As I mentioned right at the beginning of this video, I never really started with a plan, and I don't like segmented pieces, but I do actually quite like the way this has turned out. Whilst this bowl is not unattractive, it's 14.5 inches by 7 inches, a little big for the average household, so I'm probably going to struggle to find a home for it. Of course, it was not without challenge. A large number of metal artifacts, mainly nails and some pins, had to be removed at the cost of taking a chip out of my 1/2 inch Sorby bowl gouge, however easy enough to fix, and thereafter I switched to my carbide tools, which the tips are cheap enough to replace. Now, I decided to dedicate this particular piece to the 100th anniversary of the Armistice, which occurs on Sunday. Now, at several times during the turning of this bowl I wanted to give up and throw it on the fireplace, but like Winston Churchill said, I didn't give up, and at the end of the day I think I've created something quite aesthetically attractive. This bowl was created over a period of about 12 or 13 days, and the determination that I had to endure reminded me of the tenacity of the Allied troops in beating the Germans in World War I and World War II. So, I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I'll see you again very soon.